Hey everybody, Oversports here. This is going to be a new web series I have. It's going to be called The Monday After, and it's going to be recapping the Packers game and more in-depth analysis and giving my thoughts and opinions on it. I rewatched my instant reactions last night, and I realized I left a lot of the game out, and that's mostly because it was an instant reaction. I literally turned the camera on right after the final play of the game, and there's a lot of things that I missed and that I didn't talk about that I probably should have. So this video is going to be more in depth on those things. So let's get right into it. So the big question coming into this game was, can the Packers defense keep up what they did last week against Seattle? And the answer was no, they could not. And I'm not sure if that's because it's against Atlanta's offense or if our defense is just that bad. My guess is that Atlanta's offense is just really, really good, and our defense is relatively inexperienced. The pass defense struggled early and often. They gave up some big plays to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. Matt Ryan had 201 yards in the first half, and Julio Jones had 94 receiving yards in the first half. So the run defense was really shaky too. We couldn't really get off the field when they used Freeman. Any third and short was pretty much a guaranteed first down for them without Daniels on the field, because he's the core of our run defense, and without him, obviously, the Packers aren't as good at stopping the run. But right off the bat, the Packers defense gives up a touchdown drive, and I mean, that was pretty much it for the Packers. As much as a 7-0 lead isn't nothing in the NFL, uh, it just had that feel, you know. It was demoralizing to have them just march straight down the field and score a touchdown on us. And while the loss was rather demoralizing, it wasn't as dominating as some people might think it was on Atlanta's end. Two plays really changed this entire game here. There were, especially the one at the end of the half. There were two blown calls. Now, one of them at the end of the half was a pick play that was called an offensive pass interference on Michael Bennett. And photographic evidence shows that Michael Bennett was within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage when he set that pick. And by NFL rule, you can set picks within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. And he was within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. I will post a photo of that and me talking about it a little bit later on. But it very clearly shows that he was within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage, and it wiped out a huge gain, a really huge gain, 36 yards at the end of the half, and the Packers could have definitely scored on that drive. They had about a full minute had that play stood. They were about at midfield, and my guess is that they actually would have gotten a field goal. So that, and right after that pick play was called back, that 36-yard gain was called back, Aaron Rodgers threw an interception on the next play, and the Falcons scored a touchdown on that ensuing drive. So that's about a 10-point swing right there in the game. Instead of 24-7, it could have been 17-10, or even 17-14. So that just changes the entire game for the Packers. And on the first drive of the second half, they came out throwing because they were down 17, and Rodgers got hit hard, and he fumbled the ball on a lateral that they called, and even that was a little bit of a questionable call, and that led to a touchdown for the Falcons. And I mean, think about it. That play might not have happened had it been a closer game, because the Packers wouldn't have had their hurry-up offense going or anything like that. But the second play I want to talk about is so the Falcons were ahead 31-7. It was right after the fumble recovery for a touchdown by Atlanta. Rodgers is marching us down the field, and he throws a touchdown to Randall Cobb. It looked pretty clean to me, but they called it back on an offensive pass interference on a pick play by Geronimo Allison. And watching the replay, to me, it really did not look like that was a pick. It looked like Geronimo Allison kind of was running a route, and he just ran into a guy. And without that happening, the Packers still score that touchdown, because Randall Cobb was wide open no matter what. So I really didn't agree with that call. And if you think about it here, that's a 17-point swing right there. You take away the 3 that we scored on that drive. No, that's a 14-point swing right there, right? Because the 10 points at the end of the half, and then there's the 4 points we would have gotten on the touchdown instead of kicking that field goal. So that leaves us at the Packers score about 27 points in the game, had it not been for those two calls. And and taking away the 7 that Atlanta scored, that's 27-27, uh, and taking away that one fumble recovery too. Had the Packers not been down by 17, and I mean the Packers had 27-20, right? I mean it just changed the entire game for the Packers, and instead of being down only 7, they're down 17 at the beginning of the half, and that's just such a different. Your entire game plan is different at that point of the game, between down 17 and between down 7. It just changed the entire game for the Packers, and it was really disappointing to see the game kind of fall into the hands of the officials there. And the Packers did get some pretty questionable calls last week too, so I guess that's just karma coming around back to haunt them. But I mean, it's football, so what are you going to do? Some more positive notes. Devontae Adams played really well in this game. He caught 8 passes for 99 yards and a touchdown. Without Jordy Nelson in the game, we had to go more to Cobb and Adams, and that really opened up it for Adams, and he had a pretty good game. He caught a 33-yard touchdown on a really nice catch on 4th and 7 to start the fourth quarter. But I mean, not having Jordy Nelson was huge in this game for the Packers, because that pass to Adams was really the only vertical pass we threw all night, and that was actually complete. And I've said it before, and back in 2015 when Jordy Nelson was down for the entire season, the Packers' deep passing game was non-existent. It didn't exist, and we just never threw him because Jordy Nelson opens up the field for the Packers, and his impact is really underestimated on the football game. And without that vertical threat, our offense is a lot more limited. Another thing I want to talk about, we saw it at the beginning of last year and then 2015. The Packers, when they struggle, what usually happens is they dig themselves an early hole to climb out of. They eventually make it close because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but they ultimately fall short. And it's just frustrating to see the Packers dig themselves into holes like this and then play really well, but ultimately fall just a little bit short. It happens all the time to them, and it's just a little bit frustrating. And I mean, if the Packers were able to start stronger in games, I mean, we would be winning games like this, not losing them. And Rodgers did really play well in the second half, especially. He threw his 300th touchdown pass in his career. He threw for 343 and 2 touchdowns. He had that one interception at the end of the half after that pick play was called back on Bennett. And that pick wasn't really his fault because Geronimo Allison kind of stopped his route, and that allowed Trufant to make an easy interception on it. But he was harassed in the pocket all night with the starting tackles out. I mean, the way he played was about as good as you can play in a game like that. With your starting tackles out, your top wide receiver out. It was just a bad situation all around for Green Bay. Another positive thing I'd like to talk about, though, Kevin King really played well in this game. He really did. He did not allow a single completion on any passes, and I really think that the Packers should consider demoting Demarius Randall, because Demarius Randall really struggled in this game. Every time he covered Julio Jones or Mohamed Sanu, they get a cushion and they get a wide open pass, and and we've seen these struggles with Randall before. Since his rookie season, he's really just kind of stunk. And I really think that Kevin King should get a shot over Randall, in my opinion, for that number 3 corner spot, or number 2. I'm not sure which one it is. But I mean, all in all, this game was just a bad situation for the Packers. Right off the bat, with the injury to Nelson, with the injury to Daniels, with the pass defense not being able to keep up with Atlanta's offense, having to dig yourself out of a hole. I mean, it was just a bad situation all around. And when I made my season predictions list, I marked this one on the calendar as an L, because going into Atlanta's new stadium and winning the game it's a tall order, especially when the Atlanta has as good of an offense as they do. And I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. And the Falcons were just a better team last night, and the Packers had a lot going against them. And I mean, it's still early in the season though, so don't give up on this team, because we're 1-1 and we have a pretty easy opponent coming up at Lambeau Field. And if the Packers have trouble with the Bengals, then you can start to worry. But I really don't think that's going to happen. And The Packers at home are a lot better than they are on the road. In fact, the Packers give up about 30 points a game on the road. So I really think the Packers will get it back together next week, and they'll hit their stride a little bit. They'll string some wins together, and people will start talking about them as legitimate contenders again, if they aren't already. So, anyways, guys, that's really all I have to say in this video. It's a more in-depth analysis of the game and what I thought about certain aspects of the game. The big thing that I really wanted to talk about was that pick play that was called an offensive pass interference on Michael Bennett. I really, really did not agree with that. That was one of the worst calls I've seen the officials make in a while, and I'm really disappointed that it had to come to that, because the Green Bay, this game would have been so much closer and so much better had that play not happened. And it kind of raises the question: does the NFL try to win games for teams that have a grand opening of their new stadium? I remember the Minnesota Vikings last year in their new stadium opener against the Packers in Week 2. They got quite a few favorable calls in that game too. So that's just speculation, though. I'm not sure about any of that. But I mean, that's all I really have to say in this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments if you have any differing opinions. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and leave a like and subscribe.